Australian soldiers serving in Afghanistan, the fight doesn't end when they leave the battlefield. With all Australian troops due home by the end of the year, there are concerns now about the growing number of veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder.
In the United States, researchers have been using transcendental meditation, or TM, to ease these symptoms. Our North America correspondent Jane Cowan spoke with one of the founders of that initiative, Dr. Serena Grosswald from the David Lynch Foundation.
Dr. Serena Grosswald, thanks very much for speaking with the ABC.
My pleasure.
Just how effective has meditation been compared to other more traditional approaches to dealing with post-traumatic stress?
Well, I think they're finding that meditation is extremely helpful. Now, of course, different meditations work differently. So our experience, what I talk about, is primarily with transcendental meditation. And they have found that particularly transcendental meditation makes a huge difference, in fact. Within 4 weeks, we've seen dramatic reductions in PTSD symptoms and improvements in quality of life, just basic improvements in happiness and functionality. And the social workers that we work with say they haven't seen anything that works this effectively and this quickly. So we're seeing very, very dramatic results.
Why do you think it works so well?
Well, you know, the very simple thing is that it reduces stress. Drugs can work very quickly, but they basically mask the symptoms. And when a drug wears off, it hasn't improved the underlying problem. And then other kinds of techniques, and there are other things that are being used, exposure therapy, and they have some benefit, and they may work. It takes a long time, often for those things. TM works fairly quickly because it just allows the mind to settle down. It's a simple technique that allows someone to experience thought at quieter and quieter levels till they eventually even transcend that thought to experience pure silence. And that is a very different experience. And when that happens, you know, a lot happens in the nervous system. And when the mind settles down like that, the body settles down, and you start to get some deep rest. And what research on TM shows is that you actually get a level of rest that's equal to deep sleep. And you do that twice a day, every day. And that's the experience that begins to get predominant.
How difficult has it been to get war veterans who've come from chaotic combat zones to sit and meditate? I mean, you might think that there would be some resistance to that.
You might think that. But, and in fact, that's the initial response that I used to get when we try to present this to some of the military leaders. But it turns out, first of all, they love it. But, TM actually comes from a military tradition. And it comes from very ancient times when there was a champion archer. In those days, archery was the main weapons, and it was that experience of being able to settle the mind in order to be able to act and do what he needed to do. And so it actually comes from a warrior tradition. And when we explain that, and that it increases performance, and the research shows that it increases performance and reaction time and all those things. So that appeals. And then, of course, when they have the experience, then it really does make a difference for them.
What about from the US military? What's the response been there?
Initially, the response was cautious, we'll say. And it was new to be thinking about the idea of meditation. And but now, a couple of things. First of all, they have a very, very serious problem. And nothing is really working that is dramatic. That you can see is going to change the curve, as they say. Veterans and active duty continue to commit suicide. There are more suicides every year. So nothing is really working as hard as they're trying. So now there is much more interest in saying, well, maybe meditation is something we really need to be looking at. And they have been looking at it. They have now gotten somewhat comfortable with the idea of meditation because they have started looking at different forms of meditation, and they are seeing results. But they're not ready to massively adopt it yet.
Because you would think that there would also be some quite considerable financial benefits for the Defence Force to have this approach rather than to be, dealing with ongoing doctor's visits and prescribing drugs.
Yes, the potential is huge to cut costs. Is something that is this easy, that can cut costs dramatically and improve the quality of life. And we're talking about really changing somebody's life. People who are on the verge of taking their life, who suddenly are saying, I have something to live for. I want my family to be doing this. I want to do this. This is giving my life back. They literally say that. This is giving me my life back.
Dr. Grosswald, thanks so much for speaking at the ABC.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And Jane Cowan reporting an interesting twin that, of course, with our reports out of the UK, according to the BBC and Panorama, that more British soldiers and veterans took their own lives in 2012 than died fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan over the same period. So the issue of the problems that veterans are bringing home here in Australia as well is a really huge issue. So interesting to see it's being treated by TM there.
And Jane's chat with Serena Grosswald was part of the ABC's focus on policies. This ahead of the election this week, we're looking at care in our community. And you can go to the Australia Votes website, the very good Australia Votes website, to get all the details of our election and political coverage. There you see it. You're watching ABC News Breakfast. Good morning. These are our top stories today. The Prime Minister's preparing to reveal how he'll pay